Life should not be a journey to the grave with the intention of arriving in a pretty, preserved, well-kept body, but instead we should be a blaze of light, arrive, skid in with a flash of light, and be completely worn out, completely used up, and be screaming, "Woo! What a ride!" That's what life should be. That's the end goal, right? How do we get there? How do we make that wow everyday experience come to life for every day of our lives so that in the end we can say, "Woo! Really, what a ride!" So my intention with this particular presentation is how do you get to that area? And what it is, the answer is goals. And so I'm going to unpack why you need goals and how you can catapult your goals into exponential success with achieving your goals. Doing this very particular one thing that I'll share later. So let's move on. Raise your hand if you want to, or in your mind, mentally pick one of these rows. Where are you right now with the satisfaction of every morning when you get out of bed, you love to get out of bed, you cannot wait to get out of bed and go to work. Even if you do need those 2 cups of coffee to get going, but eventually after the coffee sets in, you're excited. So maybe you're down here, or maybe you're down here, up here, and it's okay, but to know where you are is important. A few stories just as examples to get us started. My husband Steve and I went to Busch Gardens in Tampa, Florida for a date day, and in 5 hours we rode 10 roller coasters. And all throughout the day we had lots of fun, but I'm watching the people who run the roller coasters and I'm thinking to myself, what are they thinking about all day long? Because the look on their face says apathy and that they don't care. And I just thought, wow, what are they mulling over? Maybe it's nothing, maybe they just can't wait for their next break, but what is it that they're thinking of? So my question to you is, what are you thinking of? What's the question or the thought pattern that goes around in your mind all day long? Another example. So there's no painting contractors in this room right now, but whatever career path you have, whatever position you have, insert that here. 2 different, the same position, same 2 painting contractors here, 2 very different personalities or ways of looking at their job. So the story is that there's 2 painting contractors, they go to a psychologist, and the first painting contractor goes to the psychologist and he says, "Doc," he lays down on the couch, "I just gotta find something else to do. I can't stand being a painting contractor anymore. There's no meaning for being a painting contractor. I go, I slap the paint on the wall, day in and day out, and that's what I'm doing." So the doc talks to him, then ushers him out. The next patient is painting contractor number 2. He lays down on the couch, but then he springs right back up. And he is so excited. He's like, "Doc, my heart's gonna explode because I just find so much meaning in being a painting contractor. I paint the wall and I picture little kids putting their finger marks on it and the mom going and washing them off. I picture a family gathering for Thanksgiving and the candles lit and the paint looks so nice and it's bringing a warm feeling to the room. I find so much meaning in being a painting contractor." So 2 people with the same position, but 2 totally different outcomes or views. And why is it? It's because one of them has goals that are using their profession. So the first guy, he doesn't see the vision. He has a vision in something else that's not a painting contractor, and he doesn't see this as a way to even get there. So he feels sad. So painting contractor number 2, even if this isn't where he wants to be, he knows it's going to get him to the next step so that he can achieve the ultimate goal that he wants to be. Excuse me. Okay, story number 3. When I was in college, I worked my way through waitressing, and busy Sunday morning at Perkins, always busy in the breakfast time. And I'm serving my customers and dishing out the plates, and this customer asks me, "Why are you so happy?" Like he was accusing me of something. And unfortunately, I didn't answer very well. If I could have answered him, going back in time, I would say, I'd look him in the eye and I'd say, "Cheval?" No, I didn't know his name. But I'd say, good days and happy days and joy is not something that happens to us by chance. It's something that we design and we commandeer and we grab a hold of it and we make it happen day in and day out. So that's what I would have told him. And part of that is setting goals for yourself. Being a waitress was not the end goal for me. I enjoyed it, but it was not the end goal. In fact, I get burned out very quickly and need to take a break, but it wasn't the end goal. But I was so happy because I knew that that was the next step that would lead me to the next step to achieving what I ultimately wanted in my life. And so I was happy knowing that I was on the journey. So goals. How many of you wake up in the morning and this is you? You have the hammer ready. You're like, no! And you want to bash the alarm clock, right? Anyone want to raise their hand for that? Okay. The very first words that I used to say when my alarm clock would go off, not out loud, but in my head, literally screaming in my head, no, I want to sleep more. Oh, it's so cozy here. Just 5 more minutes. Hit the snooze button. But how do we go from that to being so excited to wake up in the morning that when your alarm clock goes off, if you use one, maybe Mark probably doesn't even use an alarm clock, getting up at 4, you're so excited. How do we get there? Because we want everyone to be like this, right? We want everyone to enjoy, maybe they don't enjoy the waking up process, but they are so excited about their goals and where they're headed that they give themselves a time. Okay, so that's the goal. And what I'm going to show you is not rocket science. It's not even the quadratic equation. It's very simple. But as Jim Rohn says, if you know Jim Rohn, the late great Jim Rohn, he says, what's easy to do is easy not to do. And it's in those little decisions that we make every day that we can create those goals and achieve those goals. This is Ravi Zacharias, and he says, I love how he says it. He says, meaninglessness comes from the weariness, not of pain, but the weariness of pleasure. Now, that's a lot to take in. Meaninglessness comes not from the weariness of pain, which you would think, if you're in a lot of pain, heartache, or any kind of pain, you'd think, oh, that would just be what would kill you, right? You would just not want to go on. But if we look at history, we find people who are in terrible circumstances, rising above. Why? Because they didn't have the weariness or the meaninglessness from weariness of pain or pleasure. They had their eye on the goal, right? One of my favorite movies here, Rocky. He's in the ring, and every day we step into the ring and we need to attack our goals. This is us in life. We're ready, right? If you have goals, you're in the ring and you're ready and you are just wanting to take the next swing. If you're in the crowd and you're watching, it's easy to criticize. But Teddy Roosevelt says, he has a really long poem and he says it very eloquently, but he says something to the effect that the credit belongs to this man, the man in the ring. When you're out there and you're in your goal and you're making it happen, the credit belongs to you because you're making it happen, not to the people that are criticizing you for doing what you're doing. When you set a goal or you do anything that makes you step out of your comfort zone, what is that called? That's a magic zone. That's where the magic is. It's not in your comfort zone. Can anyone attest to that? When you're comfortable, are you growing? No, it's when you're challenged and you're being pushed out. This guy is a very noble guy in my opinion, and there's an ancient book that says, a noble man makes noble plans or goals, and by his noble deeds he stands. So success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal or goal. So as we go, you're creating those goals, and you may not be there yet, but you are successful. Why? Because you're progressively realizing that worthy ideal, and you know you're after it. You know you're gonna get it. You know you're working every day. Maybe it's an inch forward today, and then an inch or a foot back the next day, but you're still happy because your goals, you know you're gonna achieve them, and you're making those little bits of progress. Greatest tragedy. I'll let you read that. greatest tragedy is what? Anyone?
Having goals.
Having no goal to reach. It's not in failure. It's not in trying something and failing. It's in not having a goal to reach. Zig Ziglar, if you know the late great Zig Ziglar, he says, you have got to have those goals. And that's kind of my king on his accent. So look back and be glad you did, not wish that you hadn't. Another guy who's great with goals. So let's move on to, so we have goals. I've convinced you, I can tell already. You guys look like you know you need to have goals. But what's the one thing that's going to help you when you've got these goals? What's the one thing that I'm talking about that's going to catapult your success in those goals? Would you like to know? Raise your hand if you have goals. Everybody has goals, pretty much. Raise your hand if you have goals written down somewhere on paper. You could probably find it in your house if you look for them. Okay, that's awesome. If you do this one thing, it will catapult your success with your goals. And the one thing is, if you write your goals down first thing every morning. You're going to rewrite them. It's the same thing every morning. Maybe they tweak as the weeks and months go on, but you're going to get up in the morning, have 2 glasses of water, have your cup of coffee, and then write your goals. Or you're not going to have water and coffee, just write your goals. But it's going to be one of either the first thing that you do or the third thing you do. I suggest that you do drink 2 glasses of water and have the coffee, and then write your goals. You'll start with the date at the top. And this is the funny picture for this, but I promise there's a reason. So you'll have the date at the top of your piece of paper every day, you write it down. And what I write after that is, if it is God's will, because I don't want to do anything for me that is outside of my God's will. So then I write down all of my goals, and I suggest 1 to 10. But right now, take a pen and write down one of your goals. We're going to write it in personal, positive, and present tense, which means, let's say your goal is to quit smoking. You're going to say, I am a non-smoker, and then we're going to add a date to it by the 31st of July. If you don't have paper, that's okay. You can write it in your mind. But if you could, so it's going to be personal. You're going to start with I, in present tense, as if you've already achieved that. I have 50,000 in the savings account by the 31st of December 2016. Whatever your goal is, you're going to write down just one of them. And while you're doing that, I want to talk about the science behind what this does. Writing your goals out every morning is actually activating a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's a little piece of your brain that sits in the back of your skull right here. And you know that we get bombarded by tons of information all day long. We're getting input, we're getting tons of, from the sky is blue, these lights are on, how many are on, these lights are on, it's warm in here, it's cold in here. Our mind is just bombarded. If we took in all of that information, we would just be babbling idiots and we won't be able to focus on anything. So there's this part in your brain called the reticular activating system that filters out everything. And what it does is it's a matchmaker. It's trying to find out, does this match? No, throw it out. Does this match? No, throw it out. It throws out all the unnecessary things that it thinks you don't need. And did you know, as it's weighing everything, that you are the one who controls what it's looking for? And it does that, you do that by what you're allowing your mind, what you think about, the questions that you ask, the books you read, the audiobooks you read, or listen to, the people you associate with. It's all being fed into your RAS. And so what writing your goals down every day is feeding the reticular activating system and giving it like, oh, you want to know this? Okay, I'm going to figure out how to do this. And I probably run out of time, but I just want to really quickly show the power of this. The reticular activating system, I thought, okay, great, that's wonderful. But does it really work? So I put it to the test about 9 months ago or so. It was the end of October last year. I had 10 pounds I wanted to get rid of. I'll probably do the same right now. But so I said, let's just see how powerful this reticular activating system is. every day I wrote down that I was 160 pounds by the 31st of May 2016, like 9 months later. And I said to myself, I'm not going to sabotage it, but I'm also not going to try and help it, or by sheer willpower, not eat the cookies or the dessert that I love to eat every day. But I wanted to see what would happen with the reticular activating system. So this was the end of October. And we're heading into the holidays, right? Yeah, good food, cookies, all of that kind of thing. And so would you believe that before Christmas, from that just, I think it was 5-6 weeks, something like that, I lost 5 pounds. Through Christmas, through the holidays, New Year's, lost the rest of the 5 pounds. Totally blew my goal out of the water, right? Because I wanted like May 31st. And what I reflected back on was that, okay, so your reticular activating system's asking, constantly saying, does this match, does this match? Instead of by sheer willpower not eating that cookie that I really want because I love cookies and dessert, by writing that goal down every day, that cookie didn't match up and it didn't have near the power or the desire. I didn't have near the desire for it. It didn't look as good. And so I was able to say no without like, oh, I have to say no, without feeling like I have to suffer. And so that's the power of the reticular activating system. So what I want you to do is tomorrow morning, you're going to get up at 5 o'clock, you're going to write your goals, drink water, have coffee, write your goals, and then I want to hear, text message me, hey, I did it, if you did do it. And I hope that you will. And I want to hear what the results are. So at the end, because we've taken all these steps at the end of your life, you can skid in broadside and completely worn out, used up, and just say, woo, what a ride that life was.